Welcome to Bold Talk series, where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Garth Belic, a founder and CEO at Paycat. Garth, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Epi. Pleasure to be here.
Great. Well, Garth, looking forward to this conversation, this short format bold talks that we do with many entrepreneurs and people from around the world. And this was very interesting because we're talking about the accounting and payment systems. So first, let's start with the your background. You've been a chartered accountant for over 2 decades, including roles at PwC and Employment Hero. What moment or insight pushed you to stop advising businesses and start building your?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably around when cloud accounting came out, probably like early 2010s. I suppose it became prominent in Australia in particular. We had Xero and Zasu and a few early players on that market. I was in an accounting firm at the time, and they weren't really doing a lot with tech. They were very much lever arch folders and handwritten notes and all that sort of stuff. And I saw a lot of merging about cloud technology, and particularly I started reading a lot about APIs and how, two disparate systems can talk together, which back then there was no sort of out of the box things that you can connect things together. So APIs are really interesting to me. And at the time I was doing a lot of audit, and of course with audit, we write management letters and things like that. We often said a lot about you should try your best to connect these systems so you're not double handling data and creating that risk of error. So that's sort of where the interest first came into the SaaS technology as it was emerging. Like you said, sort of wanted to go from advising it to doing it, and that was a catalyst for it.
Right. What a journey, huh? And when was it? How long ago was it when you started?
I reckon so. Paycat's 8 years old. It's probably been 2011, 2012 since I went out. I did a little consulting practice in amongst that on my own. Yeah, and that was sort of a bit of an experimentation phase for me with the latest technology at the time. The system I ended up working a lot with, which we'll talk about today, Employment Hero, it was called KeyPay back then. It was sort of brand new to the market at the time that I was brand new to the market. It was a good fit to work with that platform and those owners for that period.
Yeah. How long it took you to have a very clear product market fit? Because this is like something like a lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle and want to know from your side.
How do I know it's a product fit? Well, in Australia, in particular, most of your viewers be overseas, US-based international viewers.
Yeah. I mean, from all over, yeah.
All over. Yeah. So people that understand the Australian climate, we've got very complicated payroll in Australia. When I sort of started out, we'd call what I did back then, we'd call it now virtual CFO work, but it was basically doing the internal accounting function of small to medium-sized businesses. And of course, I opened up and, grabbed a few clients by the ear and sat them down and said, this is what you need. It was a new idea at the time. And the first thing everybody always said is, oh, great, you should know something about payroll then. Now, I knew of it, but I didn't know much more about it. So when I started talking to clients initially, they're confused by how complicated it is in Australia, and they really did want to outsource that function to get rid of the risk. And of course, I'd say yes to anything, being a brand new business owner. I'd say, yeah, sure, I can do payroll, and then quickly Google what payroll is. And I thought, hours times hourly rate, how hard could it be, Epi, right? But, as you go deeper into it, you just realize in Australia how so many different governing agencies are involved in getting it right. And it's quite legalese, complex legislation to get it right. And it's just to pay someone in a basic operation like a restaurant or a care business or, a hospitality or retail, that kind of thing. That was sort of, it validated itself. It found me. That's what I would say.
And part of the conviction part, right? One is like getting to that point where you got that validation, the product market fit. But then it's also like, having that grit that you're saying, now it's like, this is it. I'm going to do it. And you believe so much, like, because in the end, like, that conviction has to be so strong that you're really burning the boat. So when was that moment that you said, like, this is it?
Yeah, I don't think it ever was. I think I probably, to my detriment, I was probably somebody who decided it was going to work and then convinced everybody else. But I think as I've as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's the other way around. Like you've got to listen to your audience and hear their feedback and sort of formulate your product or your service or your offering, whatever it is around that. But I think at the time, I just love the idea of this new world of SaaS technology and how you can sort of remotely service clients where you couldn't do that in the past. And like, I'm talking about things like, just to be specific, at the time when we were servicing payroll for these clients, they would fax timesheets into us and they'd fax a request for leave into us and we'd sit there retyping into a spreadsheet. Like my ethos about how business processes should work, that was just soul crushing. I wanted to make it work, and I wanted automated payroll. And I don't know if the market was quite ready for that at the time. It certainly is now. So
Yeah.
just being an early adopter, I think, is probably the answer.
Yeah. I mean, tech founders love to chase features and UX, but your work lives at the intersection of tech and legal risk. You have this in a very complex and an environment. How do you make product decisions when the cost of failure is so high?
So I think it's a good question. So I think with like product decisions, I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record, but I think it comes down to understanding your audience. Like I'll tell you I laugh at it now, but at the time it was terrible. Brand new business, brand new clients, had, our first handful of clients come through, and the product that we're using, which I can refer to as KeyPay, they're called Employment Hero Payroll now. It released a feature very early on that allowed you to automate the pay conditions of a business. And they released it, and pretty well within 24 hours, they said to me, okay, we've got a client that needs this desperately. Would you jump on a plane and go down to Melbourne and go and get them sorted out? So I was very much like, I printed out the help notes on the plane and was learning the product on the way down to the client, and went down there, built it. The client was very, very unionized. So they had a lot of staff and they're all sort of in the construction industry and very strong union. So we built it, we rolled it out, and they ran their first payroll in it. And the payroll had a mistake in it. It was based on what was built. And the workforce all walked off site and sat in the shed and said, we're not working anymore until this allowance gets fixed in our pay. It's actually like, this is the first one. So, there's been a lot of things like that where I think you go back and understand, through experience, the risk you're taking on in an industry like this, because it is so complicated, but the need for it outweighs the risk, right? And so people are willing to pay a lot of money to have a proper implementation. They're willing to pay for the few people in the country that understand how to implement that properly and how to apply their business rules and pay conditions to their particular file and automate that stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's always a risk reward function, but the reward's there these days. And I think people see the value in making that investment, because like that horror story I told you, that was probably 2013 or something, a long time ago now, but that kind of experience happens day to day in Australia. So there is a compelling reason to get it right, as well as compliance.
Yeah, taking that step towards making those mistakes, right? But then owning your mistakes. A friend of mine used to say this: just keep doing it as long as no one dies, it's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Now, you worked with businesses across retail, hospitality, healthcare, and education. What industry surprised you the most in terms of how broken or outdated the payroll system really were?
Well, nothing in Australia surprises me when it comes to payroll. Like you're seeing, the ongoing joke is our biggest competitor is still pen and paper. So you see all sorts of systems. I saw a really large retail outlets using paper timesheets in the year 2000 and stuff. 2020, and you're filling in a timesheet of 5 looks like a 6. It's typed into the system wrong, and now you've got underpayment going back 10 years. So you see some horror things, but the industry that we fell into, and I might go into a little bit more depth about sort of how we fell into that. It's an interesting story in itself, but they have a particularly complicated set of rules, and that's the care industry in Australia. And so we've sort of come across cases in the care industry where they're very well intentioned. They typically want to pay their staff properly, but because it's so complicated, they're getting it wrong, underpaying their staff. They're unaware of it, and then they've got this sleeping liability in their business that they come back to, and it's almost a point where it's going to send them broke to pay back this, send them insolvent to pay back this debt. It's sort of going back to it, sort of the value prop of having a good payroll system in place is your future proofing your business.
Yeah. So obviously we know this trust. It's a one main factor that keeps everything together in business
Yeah.
and many things in life. But there's a huge trust component in what you do. People are trusting you with money, law, livelihoods. How do you build that trust at scale, especially in the early stage of the company?
What we did with the PayCat brand pretty early on, and this segues into what I was saying before about the care
By the way,
industry,
I
is
just love the name PayCat. It's like so cute.
yeah, it's meant to be like pay category consulting, and we shorten everything in Australia, so it became
Yeah,
PayCat pretty quick. And yeah, my little 3-year-old daughter picked the logo, which is like a little cartoon cat that I'm stuck with now. So yeah, but what happened with PayCat was when we hit COVID, we were doing a lot of implementation work, and the work dried up because a lot of the businesses were tied to retail and hospitality, and there wasn't a lot around. So we turned our attention to marketing, and like my broad plan and limited budget sort of said, well, the best way for us to do marketing is to try to get the fish to jump in the boat, you know, rather than go fishing. And so what I mean is, like, we want people to come to us and say, we need a new payroll system, not us convince them, and take that inbound approach. So we set about creating a lot of free blog content and ebook content and all that sort of stuff on our website. And it was a very underserviced thing we were doing. We were writing about what we call modern awards, which is the rule book for how each industry is meant to be paid. And we basically did that for like 17 industries or 18 industries, and put it out there and stood back and said, okay, which one resonates? And it was like a 10-to-1 scale where this care health services industry that we call NDIS in Australia, it just had such a demand for this content that we're putting out. And so once again, the market told us, well, this is the industry we need to concentrate on, because this is the one where people have the biggest thirst for how they should actually work and how I should pay my staff properly. And so we designed our product and our offering and our services around that industry and the challenges that they were having.
very good. And that gave you a lot of clarity because you got to zoom in one industry and go deep in that industry and
Yeah, that's right. Like, you hear people say you can dig like a shallow hole that's very wide or a narrow hole that's very deep, and we decided to dig a narrow hole that's very deep, and that's really served us well.
yeah. Gart, I have lots of respect for entrepreneurs, but nothing like the ones who bootstrap their businesses. And you're one of those bootstrapped and profitable, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
That's rare in SaaS today. What hard decision or principles help you maintain that discipline while still growing the business?
The state boot, yeah. So I think the saying is, you start where you are, do what you have. Sorry, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And if you have a lot of time and no money, then the place to start is writing blogs, writing ebooks, jump on your website, doing that free stuff that, I mean, it's easy now with AI tools, but it was hard graft back then to sit there and draft pages and pages and pages and pages of websites, but that's what paid off. So you just look for those things that you can do. I have time on my hands. I don't have money. So do the free stuff. When you have money and no time, well, you need to start outsourcing more and more functions as you go on. I think that the principle for bootstrap or anybody starting up a company is, I think you start off as a freelancer, you wear every hat in the business possible. And as it grows, you start taking those hats off and giving them to more people in the business as you go. You always want to leverage your time. But I think you know, that's sort of the principles behind how we've grown it and how we've scaled it is we've scaled it. We've sort of leveraged our own time. And the other thing I probably want to mention on that is too, that I remember when I first opened PayCat, I had a little whiteboard. It was actually a garage set up. All great tech companies are. They start off in a garage, but there was a whiteboard out in the garage, and it said, like, we wrote on the whiteboard, predictability and control. And those two words were sort of the motto of the business at the time. The theory behind that is that if we were to take on a client contract, we need to take on things that we can control and predict. And if we can't control and predict those things, we won't take it on. And it governed a lot of the decisions early, because instead of taking on everything you can, I was selective about what I took on, because I had to not only service the business at the time, but still not completely tie up our time that that's what we were doing.
Yeah. Amazing. Garth, congratulations to your success and to the things that you're doing. It's not an easy thing to bootstrap the company and to bring it to this scale. I always like to ask this as a part of the last question to my guests in this podcast, and that is about the word bold. What does that mean to you personally?
Word bold. But I think in entrepreneurial spirit, it's like taking risks, but I think it's also um, like being bold. I think sometimes is being true to who you are, but putting on a special cloak when you wear to work and you act different, you behave different. I think it's just being true to who you are, and a lot of the most bold things we're about to make in the time is what do we take on, or what direction do we go in, and what risks do we take, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, to me in a business context, that's what I would say bolders.
Yeah, very well said. Be true who you are. This is so important because that will clarify a lot of things. And I always say, in order to do that, I have this rule. I apply this rule of a triple A. I say you have to acknowledge, you need to accept, and you need to take actions in order to be able to move in a direction where this give you clarity and
Yeah, I
focus.
love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
So, Garth, listen, so great to have you here. I truly appreciate your
It's been
time.
an honor. Appreciate it.
I enjoy this conversation. Hopefully, we get to do another conversation like this, probably in a longer format. And up until that time, enjoy your. Now it's in Australia. It's probably winter time there because in Europe it's a
Yeah, it's
summer.
winter time.
It's winter
Yeah,
time,
getting
so
spring.
stay warm out there. Here in Europe, it's hot. It's over 40 Celsius degrees. And until that time, take care, be great, and be bold always. Bye bye.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Epi.
Thank you.